Hello everyone, and welcome to this follow-up video to my previous video, which was part 42 of a chess rating run series. This is the game review. If you'd like to see the actual game being played, check out the previous video. This game, we started off, I had the black pieces. They played knight to f3. So I just played knight to f6 to kind of see what they would do. And then they just developed their other knight. So I guess they had the same idea to just develop the knights and wait to see what my plan was. If we go back to the beginning and look and see, what are the best moves here. Probably a central pawn should have been pushed first. And the way the game continued after I go d5 here and they played d4, now this knight is blocking their c pawn. And usually in these d4, d5 openings, you don't want to block this c pawn because that's a good pawn to push and attack this central d5 pawn. So the game continues with me just playing g6 here, kind of setting up a King's Indian defense or a Grunfeld, I guess, since this pawn is pushed forward here to d5 instead of d6. They immediately jump in here with knight to e5, which the computer says that's a good move, but e3 would have been better. He kind of wasted a tempo maybe. This does kind of block, block my position in a little bit. But, this pawn wasn't going to e5 anytime soon. Maybe he could have followed up with an f4 pawn move, and then if I try and knock this knight out of here, the f pawn could recapture and gain space in the center. But I don't think that happened in the game. I continue with bishop to g7, so now I'm ready to castle. Here, also by moving that knight again, usually you don't want to move pieces twice in the opening because it wastes time. So now he was ahead in development. Now we both have two pieces developed. But he jumps in with this bishop here, attacking, putting pressure on my knight. So, it says that's an excellent move, but the computer recommended e3. So I guess he wanted to get his bishop outside of his pawn chain before he pushes here to e3. So I immediately attacked the bishop, forcing him to decide whether to capture my knight or to retreat that bishop. So he retreats, and while he's retreating, I continue attacking. And so maybe this wasn't the best move here because now it kind of loosens up the pawns here on the king side. So if I go ahead and castle, there's a little bit too much space here. And later he could push this pawn and try and break open my king side. So maybe this wasn't the best move. The computer says it's an inaccuracy that swings the game to slightly in white's favor. But he does have to retreat again, and now this gives me time to develop my bishop. And it wanted me to continue attacking here with knight to h5, and it says that was a better move. Now this gives it almost +1, 0.9 in white's favor. But I was trying to get my bishop outside of the pawn chain here before I push up to e3. So the game continues with him playing e3, and then first I go ahead and fortify this pawn in the center, and then I'm going to push to e6. I think I said e3 by accident earlier, but e6 here. So they attack here, forcing me to decide what to do about this bishop. And I thought about retreating down to here But then they could capture me and it would pull my knight off to the side here, or even my rook up here, and then I couldn't castle. So I don't know. Here in the game, I decided to play e6, and it says that's an excellent move, but it did recommend just capturing and trading off. So, yes, that was probably a better move because my bishop was a bad bishop blocked by its pawns here in the center on the same color as the bishop. So I probably should have exchanged that off, and then I would get rid of his good bishop, although he could probably maybe capture with the pawn and then push this e pawn forward. So I wanted to avoid that. But anyway, I decided to let him capture here, and then it pulls this e pawn over, and now I kind of have a good lock on this e4 square, and maybe I could jump my knights up in here. But then of course he could chase them away with pawn to f3. So the game continues with him attacking that pawn, and then I move queen to c8, which it says that's a great move, but that's the only move that kind of protects that pawn. And so the game continues with him castling, and it says the computer says that's an inaccuracy that swings the game all the way back into my favor. It wanted to see knight to d3. So, why would that be a good move? I guess it would reposition the knight, allowing this bishop room to attack down the diagonal. So, that is a possibility. All right, so here I wasn't sure what to do, and I decided to just chase the queen out of there. And the computer says that's an inaccuracy, and now the game has swung back in White's favor by plus 0.73 here. So queen to e6 is the move that it wanted. And I actually thought about that in the game, moving the queen up here and then jumping the knight into here, and trying to dislodge this knight. But instead, I wanted to gain time by chasing the queen. So the queen retreats to the best square here, where it kind of keeps an eye on this diagonal and also this long diagonal here. So now I move up here to e6, which it says that's a good move, but even better would have been knight to h5 to just go ahead and attack the bishop here immediately. All right, so now white counterattacks these pawns that I've probably pushed too far here. So I just go ahead and fortify, and it looks like the computer wanted me to ignore this pawn and just go ahead and castle over here. And yeah, that was probably better to go ahead and castle and get this rook developed. But anyway, after we exchange pawns here, now here, many times it's better to capture towards the center, and maybe that was better, but this undoubled my pawns, and I don't know, maybe that was, well, actually the computer decides it. The computer said h takes g4 would have been better, so almost always it's better to capture towards the center, so I guess I should have done that. But I guess I was afraid of having this pawn stuck here on f5, and the queen and the rook could pile up on that, and I don't know if there was a way to defend that. All right, anyway, moving on. The knight retreats back, which the computer says is the best move, which from there it can reposition here and attack my queen. Or the knight could jump in here and attack my queen and this pawn at the same time. So I decide to develop, keep the knight. Well, contain the knight. If it jumps in here, I could capture it. And now the bishop jumps down here to c7, and the computer says that's a mistake, which swings the game back close to even. White is still a little bit ahead here, but the computer wanted knight to f4, which would have been better. Just jumping in here, and that would attack my queen and gain time by chasing my queen away. All right, so I played knight to e4, which is an inaccuracy. The computer wanted an immediate rook to c8 to just chase this bishop out of here. But, I thought, well, this would be a good spot for this knight. It kind of lets my bishop, cover this e5 square. And I was also looking at capturing here. Well, I guess that wouldn't work. I was kind of looking at some tactic where I could try and capture this pawn, and if this knight, is removed or moves away, the pawn here couldn't capture, or I would get the queen. But then I guess, anyway, it didn't work out. So moving on, the knight jumps out here to avoid the trade, but this is a mistake. It looks like knight to f4 would have been better, immediately attacking my queen. Okay, so now let's see. I continue on by attacking this knight and driving it back towards the center. And the computer says that this was a good move. The game is even now, but rook to c8 attacking this bishop would have put the game in black's favor. So continuing on, he jumps in here attacking my queen, but of course either one of my knights can recapture. It says knight to c3 would have been better, but now let's see here. I captured with this, and it says that was the best move. So he captures with the pawn, and I didn't know if he'd do that or not. I thought, that he would probably just capture with the knight, then we would trade, and then the pawn would end up there, and then he would jump into here with his bishop and prevent me from castling. So then my queen retreats back, and it says that's an inaccuracy, that a5 would have been better. Oh, which I see that a5 would have prevented his knight from jumping here and threatening to capture this pawn. So this is played, which the computer says that is best, and the game is even now. So here it recommends either queen to d7 or capturing with the knight, which is what I did. So they recapture, which is the best move. But now I gain a pawn here, and they have this isolated pawn. So the game continues with queen to f2 and inaccuracy. So now the game is in black's favor. But he was trying to line up here and threaten an attack on this f pawn, delivering check and attacking my bishop here. So I go ahead and castle, and it says that's an excellent move, but interesting. It actually preferred castling the other way. Let's see. Well, I don't know. This way avoids loss of pawns for the moment. But now we have this. Just attacking here. And it looks like queen to h4 would have been better. Let's see. So now we have queen to e6, which is what I played. And it says that that is a mistake, that queen to h6 would have been better, which that would have defended the pawn and attacked this pawn. But then, the knight could just jump in here, and then the queen and knight would be attacking here. And it would prevent me from capturing this pawn if the knight jumps in here. So, I don't know. I jumped here thinking if they capture my queen, I'll recapture, and kind of pulls my pawn towards the center, opens up a file for the rook here. So they do capture, and it says that that is a miss, that they should have just captured the pawn. And then if they captured the pawn, I thought, well, I could capture this pawn with check. Anyway, moving on, I capture back. They play c3, which is best, which closes this diagonal so I can't capture this pawn, and now the knight is free to move. So I decide to trade some material, but it looks like the computer preferred e5, so that's interesting. If the rook jumps down here, I guess I could attack the knight, but then they could jump forward. So I don't know. I wanted to kind of reduce the attacking chances here. And so I jump in here, and now it wants bishop to h6 instead of that move. But I didn't want the rook, kind of jumping down into my position in the game or controlling this open file. So knight to f4, and it looks like that is a mistake. So rook takes f8 would have been better to go ahead and do that first. But we end up exchanging rooks here shortly anyway. So let's see. Now I move here, bishop to h6, which is the best move. This will allow me to deliver a check here. So now if we go back and look at that, if he captures this pawn here, well then I could jump up here with check, and the king, if it moved away, I could capture his rook and it would be mate. What could he do? If he tries to block with the rook, well then I would just capture it. So, luckily he saw that tactic and avoided it. So he moves up here with g3, and it actually says that rook to e1 is a better move, which just guards this pawn here. So the game continued on with me attacking his knight. So now he jumps away, but I'm able to move up here and attack. Let's see what it said he should have done there. So instead of retreating, it actually wanted knight to g6 here, jumping in here, attacking my rook, which, I don't know, then I would have just traded and captured this pawn. Anyway, in the game, I do move up here, putting more pressure on this pawn, and now he captures. So I recapture, and the knight is under attack. So he retreats, but this allows me, let's see what it wanted. The computer wanted, interesting. The computer wanted knight to f4, giving up the knight. But, now black is ahead here. So, excuse me, I check him. He moves his king to the best square, getting in front of this passed pawn. And now I just push forward here, fortifying the passed pawn so the knight can't capture it. Now he attacks my bishop, which is the best move. And here, I believe I was thinking for quite some time, wondering what to do. I thought about moving my bishop down here, but then I thought, well, he could just block it. So I end up just going after the pawns here. He pushes forward, and now I'm thinking, well, he has a check here, a threat of check, and then capturing this pawn. So I move here, that way he can't just check me and then capture a pawn. So he jumps up here to go after the pawn. So now, let's see, I end up going bishop to d2. So if he captures here, I can capture this one. And it says that that's an excellent move, but bishop to b2 would have been even better. But I wanted to stay on this diagonal to prepare a push of this pawn, to push it forward and then be able to promote it and have the bishop protect it. So the knight jumps down here, snatching up pawns. I capture here, and then he captures. But now we see the game is, very far in favor of black here. So it looks like king to f2 would have been a much better move. Let me go back a little bit here and just take a look. So that's the best move. He jumps back. Well, the funny thing, let's see, king to f2. Then it's saying I should just play b4. Well, then he could jump down to here, but then I guess I could attack him. And anyway, I have too many passed pawns, so the game's pretty much over. I push forward here. They say that's the best move. So now this pawn can advance and then promote to a queen. So he jumps up here, attacking, and it says that knight to c6 would have been better. But now there's a mate in 10, and anyway, white is pretty much losing. So I push forward with check, the best move, and the king moves down here. And so now the game ends after I promote to a queen here. But when I promote to the queen, it says that that's an inaccuracy. So I want to take a look at that. Instead, it says that bishop to b4 here would have been better. So bishop to b4. All right. So if I go there, I thought, well, would he just attack my bishop anyway by going here? I thought I was going to lose the bishop anyway. So a3, it's still a mate in 6. But anyway, the queen is, I'm going to have a promotion to the queen here. So anyway, if we go back, e1 queen, or sorry, the pawn to e1 promoting to a queen with check was played, and here my opponent resigned. As how would the game continue? We can see how it may have gone. If the king moved away and captures, well, now it gives me time to move this bishop. So looks like I can go there, check. The king will have to move back up. Now we can check again. And we move up here. Let me go back one. Let's see. If I move here and threaten a mate in 1, does that do anything? Looks like the king could jump out to here maybe. Queen to e3. It says that's a mate in 8 still. But the knight could jump up here maybe. All right, anyway, here's what the computer recommends as playing on by doing this. If he captures that, now we capture the pawn with check. And then we'll just use our queen to pick off this knight, possibly. And then we can use the king, or we can just push another pawn. So, interesting game. If I look at the game review, let's see. The computer says, nice giveaway, nice comeback win. So, yeah, it looks like white was in the lead there, and I just held in, and 86.4 accuracy to their 76.5. And it says you really outplayed your opponent in that one. Your opponent played better than you in the opening. Both of you navigated the middle game well, and your end game precision was a cut above your opponent. So remember to study your end games. Definitely study tactics. So opening accuracy 96.2, and mine was only 91.3. Their middle game 73.4, and I had 80.5. All right, so end game, they only had 67.7 in the end game, and I had 90.4. So the end game is pretty much what won it for me, I guess. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this game review, which was a follow-up video to part 42 of the chess rating run, where I actually played the game. So you can go back and look at the game if you want to see how it actually went down as we were playing. But hopefully this game review helps you learn a little bit and improve your chess. All right, well, thank you if you watched the video, the entire video. It probably went a little bit long. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave comments or suggestions. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.